All right, we're going off the track for today's athletics discussion on the SportsMax Zone. The late arrival of a majority of the Guyanese contingent to the Carifta Games held in the Bahamas in April 2023 has had a far-reaching chain reaction, one that did not spare President of the Athletics Association of Guyana, Aubrey Hutson. The eventual emergence of the team on the day of competition triggered widespread calls for the incumbent to step down. 3 months later, the AGA's General Council voted unanimously in favor of removing Hutson from his position, with the Carifta incident being low on the list of accusations levied against him. Hutson was also accused of administrative improprieties by the AAG's General Secretary and Treasurer dating back to the previous year, including micromanagement. It was said that Hutson would underwrite AAG expenses before participating in self-reimbursements without the knowledge and/or approval of the Executive Council. He was also accused of withholding the association's account balance and financial transactions from members of the council, as well as indulging in biased practices regarding the selection of athletes and coaches to represent Guyana. These allegations triggered an investigation by a team including legal professionals, but the AAG's executive committee accused Hutson of failing to provide documents required for the inquiry, and his suspension was extended in 2024. Now, in September of that same year, an anonymous source revealed that Hutson had returned to the helm of the association. All right, Aubrey Hutson now joins us via Zoom to provide clarity on everything that's happening in the administration of Guyana's athletics. Good afternoon, Mr. Hutson, and welcome to the SportsMax Zone. First of all, I must say it is unfortunate that this is what we are discussing, having you, well, as far as I can remember, for the first time on the SportsMax Zone, because from my standpoint, I have seen so many positives with Guyana's athletics in recent years. But the fact is, the issues are before us, and we must try and get clarity. So let me start here, because I want you to explain for us the circumstances under which you were reinstated as president. I know you have said previously that the suspension itself was unconstitutional, but the fact is you did step away from the post for over a year. Your vice president did take control of the organization, and then you returned. So if you can, please explain the circumstances under which you reclaimed your position as president.
Well, good afternoon to SportsMax. It's an honor and privilege, first time on this program, and I always admire the program and what it provides. It's unfortunate, yes, that we have to be discussing this because there's a whole lot of misinformation out there about what actually transpired. At a particular meeting, this is just after coming back from Carifta at one of our statutory meetings, one of the members, or a few members, including the persons who were responsible for the Carifta team, started a campaign to have me removed for me and hide their own, inefficiencies in athletics. And at that stage, after serving athletics for over 10 years, I have a business to run. I have a personality to uphold. My name is very, very important to me. And I said to the then vice president, kindly take over the meeting, and whatever you guys decide, I'm going to go with in the spirit of track and field to ensure that the athletes and the coaches and the other stakeholders in track and field don't suffer as a result of this bitter spat that can take place as I move to the courts and I seek, legal action for an unconstitutional move. But as you ask about what happened that created a return, I must say some of those same members would have orchestrated me being ousted in an unconstitutional move, came right back and asked me to please come and take it over because of the turmoil that is existing among them and the AAG honestly needed some bit of stewardship at that stage. I must point out that throughout the period of time where I was not active as president, I continue to support athletics in every way I possibly can, providing services by, FAT, and assisting any executive member or team member who has issues and need international linkages. I provided that service quite conscientiously. And meanwhile, a lot of my colleagues said, no, let the system collapse. I couldn't. I basically supported it from behind the scenes. And here we are today.
Yeah, and just to get a clear understanding, because from my understanding, the World Athletics, the governing body for the sport, did not recognize your suspension. Is that correct? Can you explain that for me?
I honestly don't know what transpired at that level. As a matter of fact, I spoke to the president of South American Athletics, and he himself does not even know that I'm reinstated as president. But I said, look, we have elections coming up in another couple of days. I honestly don't want to have the wrong image of track and field in Guyana out there. And hence, look, just leave it as it is. I've been chairing meetings since July. And if you go to the World Athletics website, you'll still see up there acting president Cheryl Hermanstein. It doesn't bother me. Those things never bother me because I figure that my position as president is more as a servant to the sport and a position of responsibility and not a position of privilege.
Okay, so let's get further into it then. When will the annual general meeting, the voting Congress be, aka the elections?
Well, that in itself has a little bit of problems because as we speak, clubs who are the custodians of the Athletics Association of Guyana have not received notices yet for an AGM. And based on Constitution, it should be given to them 1 month in advance. And AGM is supposed to be constitutionally in December or latest 31st of January. Again,
so can you explain to us why the notice has not gone out yet? Because as you pointed out to us, you've been back chairing meetings since July. So you are in a position to explain to us then why the notice has not gone out to this point.
You know, since coming back into the realm, I would have said to my colleagues, listen to me, I'm here to provide support. I am here to provide the opportunity for us to have a new council come at the next cycle. I'm not here to rock the boat. Guys, continue to do the work that you do, and I will be there to support and guide you in that direction. Because the hue and cry was, and as you would have said earlier, I micromanage. I'm accused of micromanaging. But if every time I'm the wicket keeper and the ball flies to slip and the slip field is going to drop it, I have to dive. I have to go for it. This time around, I'm not going for it. But I'm going to ensure that athletics at the grassroots level, at the technical level in terms of running meets is not affected. But what happens administratively, those members of council who are responsible for the shape that the council is in must stand up and be responsible for it.
Yeah, but Mr. President, with all due respect, and I say Mr. President because that's exactly what you are the president, and I do understand your point about others being given responsibility, but this is such a significant part of ensuring that a negative image of Guyana's athletics is not out in the public, as you put it earlier, that I am a little bit at a loss as to why, of all the things, this is not the thing that you would step in and ensure is promptly handled, because now you're in a situation where elections have not been called and clearly, based on what you have just outlined to us, will not be called on time. So surely, Mr. President, that's going to be an X beside your name in a situation like this.
Well, sometimes I wonder if that's the reason for people coming back right in this office here and ask me to come back and join the association, because they know the message was in and was looking for me to go and be the bad boy, to go and wheel an axe and trash people and that kind of story. It's not my personality. I think the clubs need to know who are the people in the association that are working, and at this next cycle, be it me or any other council member, must be able to prove their worth by ensuring that they fulfill their roles and not let Hutson, even though I'm at the helm, be taking the blame for everything that goes wrong. If that's the case, then I will micromanage. I will ensure that everything that has to be done in athletics is done.
Yeah.
If not by members of this council volunteering, by myself.
And you say that, right? But the truth is, whenever you hold a certain position, you will get the blame. It doesn't matter if, somebody else doesn't step up or do their job. It just comes with the office.
I do understand your point. But, for me, there is more at stake. While I'm able to cushion the impact and not let this filter down to the athletes, there is some form of recourse where we can write the clubs, ask for a suspension of the standing order in the Constitution for us to hold our elections a little later. But I would not preempt that.
Okay.
I would not preempt that. I would allow it to run its course. When the clubs realize what is happening, they must be the people starting to ask questions.
Okay. And, Aubrey, I have to ask you this one, because so much is happening within the administration, what about the actual athletics in the country? Is that being affected in any way? What's happening?
Not at all. I mean, not by any large margin where it's affecting athletes' performance, affecting coaching schedule, affecting us running off competition. It's not affecting that aspect. I mean, if that was the case, trust me, you'd have seen a different attitude from me.
Yeah.
We have had our calendar out, which I think I'm going to share with some of your colleagues earlier. And, again, we had learning minds who sat and understood that we have some competitions that are coming early in the year, and hence we need to start doing our developmental meets early. And we're all set to run those competitions off, right? To ensure that we get the best team going to Carifta Games, the best team going to South America, seniors, which is being held in April. So we're working, I think, more or less I am more directly involved in the school's the National High School Championship, which, we've worked tooth and nail with the Ministry of Education to have it shifted to a more realistic period in our annual calendar. So that's going to be coming in March. And I've been going around Guyana, and if you know Guyana, it's vast, it's 83,000 square miles, running off into schools championship for the athletes to qualify to come to our National High School Championship.
Yeah, one of the things about Guyana, and lately, you all have been in the headlines for good when it comes to sport. Only 5 representatives for the 2024 Olympics. Do you have plans to, of course, create programs to ensure that that number grows for the next Olympics?
It's ironic that you say that. For 12 years, I've been president of the Athletics Association of Guyana. I've never gone to one Olympics. And if you check, every time there's Olympics going on, other than the last time when I was basically out of lose the steering wheel for a little bit and put it on autopilot, I've been holding track and field camps. I've been holding, during those Olympic cycles, taking my television out of my living room and taking it to the camp so we can look at the Olympics and train up our young people to be great athletes in the future. And the proof of the pie is coming. I mean, it is going to come soon. And just look out for Malachi Austin and Natalia Hinkson and others, Springer and those athletes. Those are all products of their hard work and investment that the coaches, myself, and those other administrators who are really and truly serious about track and field, been digging, tooth and nail to make things happen for them. And, it's beginning to show.
Yeah, Mr. Hutson, you have been president since 2013, which is over a decade now. Is it true that the AAG has not been financially audited for 7 years?
I will not say that.
What
I
would
will
you
not
say?
subscribe to that.
So what
I
would
would
you
say
say?
there were audits that were done.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, the last AGM that I chaired, there was an audited financial statement. There were some questions on the audit, and we were supposed to reconvene after the auditors would have answered those questions. But to say they weren't audited financial statements is not a true statement. It's not. There's no truth in that. And it's funny that the people who make these accusations sometimes are the people who have the responsibility of ensuring that the audit is done. And they're not doing it. I know I mentioned earlier that I would use my personal finances. Yes, I would use my personal finances. Right now on the books, the AAG owes me over 3 million Guyana dollars. But I want to see athletics grow. My business would have suffered. I've housed the Athletics Association of Guyana in my building right here for 10 years. Not a cent rent, not a cent utility bill, nothing. So I've contributed, and I'm not going to allow this sport that I love so much, that I work so hard for, to slide. But if the clubs at the next AGM says, Hutson, we had enough for you. Thanks for your service. I will smile right off into the sunset knowing I would have done the best I could have possibly done for the sport in Guyana.
Yeah, but Mr. Hutson, is this one of the major problems with Caribbean administration of sport, though? Because you have, as you've mentioned twice already in this interview, a business to run. So you cannot 100% give the Athletics Association of Guyana the full commitment that it requires. So isn't this by itself something that's wrong with the sport?
You got to bear in mind, it's not a paying job at this level. I mean, maybe in other territories that enjoy large financial inflow from big sponsors and brand key manufacturers, the Adidas and the Nikes and the Pumas of the world. But we basically are guaranteed every year is $15,000 from World Athletics. And if we host any South American competition, we may get $10,000 or $15,000 for that. Outside of that, we have to depend on sponsorship. Now, if you don't have the material to market, if we don't have the medals coming in at senior track and field, there's no way that any sponsor is going to look in our direction. I mean, I've walked throughout World Championships, lobby, and even at the Congress, asking for a basic kit sponsor. Please don't pay us as yet. I mean, we don't have anybody coming in the finals at any of the events of the World Championships. But, we have a bright prospect. And again, that's the question you asked. Who do you have in the finals? You don't have anybody in the finals? You can't really talk to Adidas to give you anything. So now I get to understand that they're one company, I don't want to mention the name as yet, who will be in Guyana from the 14th to talk to us about kid sponsorship. Because just imagine, when we go to Carifta, we have to pay for every piece of uniform. We have to find all the airfares. We have to find per diems. We have to find everything. And when you compare that to other countries who have great kid sponsors and other sponsors, I mean, in the Jamaica situation, you have the government taking care of all the airfare and charging a flight to take everybody to Carifta. The AAG has to find that money. And it is not guaranteed.
Not the government, but the Track and Field Association, the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, pays for a chartered flight yearly for the team to get to Carifta.
Yeah. And I want to ask quickly, though, President, would you say then, given what you've said in the last couple of minutes about the financial issues and the shortfalls and so on, that would have been behind the problems that you had with the Carifta Bahamas trip? Because we know that the team arrived there late. We had reports that the team was stranded in the Bahamas. There was no paid return route for them to come back to Guyana, and they were housed in Cuba, and the government orchestrated their return home. Is that a true picture of what happened, and where do you stand on that? Because that is something that you, as president, took a lot of heat for.
Yeah, it depends on what time of that sojourn you got your information. Because once we confirmed that we were going to get to the Bahamas on time, work started immediately on getting those return tickets. before the government of Guyana stepped in. And please note, I got the check from the government of Guyana for Carifta team Holy Thursday, which is the Thursday, the same Thursday that they left. All banks are closed. That's the date I got a check. So it's personal finances that got that team there. It's unfortunate that when they got to Cuba, that they did not realize that, in my discussion with Mike Sands, that they actually needed 48 hours advance notice for a charter flight to get to the Bahamas to pick them up.
Yeah. Mike Sands, the NACAC president, who is the Bahamian.
You're right. He's my very good colleague. He organized that flight for me.
Yeah. When you said personal funds, what do you mean by that?
I'm talking personal as in Aubrey Hutson's money.
So if
That's what I mean.
If your staff knows that, why would they be against you?
Again, we have people who want to cover their own inefficiencies or deficiencies. We had the case where the team manager claimed that I gave him basket to fetch water. I didn't even give him a flag to go with. And I'm saying, guy, you had a technical manual from day one. Don't you know from that technical manual the list of stuff that you need to take? You know, don't depend on me to give you everything. And it takes us right back to me micromanaging. You don't do everything and serve everybody give them everything on a platter, it collapses.
Yeah,
and that's exactly what happened.
And I hear you, Mr. Hutson, but let's be absolutely clear here. So you've pointed out that you've utilized your personal resources on several occasions for the benefit of athletics in Guyana, specific to the Carifta 2023 situation that occurred, where you used your personal resources to help get the team to the Bahamas. But understand that as I read it, what you are being accused of here is that in situations you have recouped that money without the knowledge of your executive body, and also that you have withheld the association's account balance and financial transactions. So if I'm reading it correctly, I would suggest that what you are being accused of here is a little bit more, or the suggestion at least is that there is a possibility that there may not be total honesty in recovering what you would have put into the organization.
So if I'm to understand your statement, because I think it's more a statement than a question, is that if I expend, receipts are there, vouchers are signed, everything is there, the source of the funds come from my credit card. I receive the invoice when money comes into us, that same voucher, that same receipt is used to make the reimbursement. So if a check is created, check number 2573 for payment for the Carifta team, even though it's dated after, that check basically covers those expenses. And I'm saying to you, the people who are saying that I cannot provide evidence of the financial transactions and I'm covering them up, let them just bring the auditor to my office. You know what they're requesting that I do? People who I know fully well, from their utterances and everything that was said, that all they want to do was to stain my name. That's all they wanted to do. So I will hand them all the financial instruments and documents that I have in this office. They'll take it and throw it in the garbage and burn it, and then say, hey, Hutson doesn't have anything. Send the auditor to my office and let us audit the books.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Was that part of the issue? Because you're also being accused of withholding information throughout the course of the investigation. So is it that you did not trust those who were investigating this matter during the 12 months that you had stepped away?
The investigation was nothing else but a witch hunt. If they would have shared a letter that I wrote to you, to the chief investigator, she looked at me, smiled, and said, Mr. Hutson, I'll contact you another day. Never called me again, because they knew it was a witch hunt. It was nothing else but that. It was to destroy my name, and I will not permit that.
So it is not true that you did not turn over important documents for the investigation?
I'm saying no documents were requested of me.
Oh.
That's number one. But I'm saying there were some of my colleagues who came here wanting to collect all the financial documents. And I said, how can I just give this to you? So if I expended $3 million and I give you the evidence of it and you choose to burn it, where's my evidence? So I'm saying, let the auditors come to me and I will hand over, they sign off everything. I have an audited financial report. I hand it to them, hand them all the vouchers. They check it off, it's true and correct. They can run their investigations after that. But I'm not going to give you the mere evidence that I have, all the documentation that I have. I would not hand that over to you without it being audited. If financial documents are going to move from one place to the other, it has to be audited.
Yeah. Have they been audited to this point?
No.
Why is
No.
that?
Because, again, people are not following the Constitution. The person who's responsible for carrying out an audit is the treasurer. And the treasurer is not, as far as I know, has not even started to audit the books of the AAG.
So that means that we'll not have an election anytime soon.
We will have an election. Based on what I'm hearing from the clubs, we will have an election. Because we just, I mean, the association cannot sit idly by waiting for people to fill their roles and they're not doing it, they're not fulfilling their constitutional mandate, and just leave it to roll. I will not micromanage this association.
Yeah, Mr. Hutson, if there is an obvious opposition among the AAG executive to your presidency, is there someone who is surfacing that will challenge for the presidential spot?
It's, well, to answer the first part of your statement before the question came, there is, I don't know of anyone that is in opposition to my presidency. Again, I see it as a fishing expedition to destroy me. But what has happened is that the council or the executive is elected by the clubs. The clubs determine who those persons are to serve. So if the council of itself don't have an appreciation of me, I got one vote or I was voted into office the same way they were. So hence, it's on them to do their job. It's on me to do my job. And when the elections come along, the clubs will determine who they want to sit in the various positions.
Yeah, you have said on the interview several times about how committed you are to seeing Ghana's track and field advance. Should I take that to mean that you're still interested in serving as president, even in this turmoil?
I'm interested in serving in any capacity in track and field. It does not have to be president. But if the clubs so see me as fit to be president, as I've heard the sentiments echoed among many of them, I have never campaigned one day for this job. Not once. But if the clubs ask me to serve again, even if it's to be the water boy, I will so serve because I love this sport and I want to see it grow.
Yeah, the problem for us looking on is that the impression we have is that the National Sports Commission and the Guyana government appear to have little confidence in your ability to lead this organization. I know they don't have votes themselves, but
the National Sports Commission and the government of Guyana are not in any way in the hierarchy of track and field in the world. We have clubs. We have the AAG, which is the Athletics Association of Guyana. Our next level is South American Athletics, and after that is World Athletics. I don't hear government of Guyana or National Sports Commission anywhere in that formula. And in my opinion, as I said to the minister the first time I met him, your role is support and leave alone. So once you're going to interfere, we're going to have problems.
And just to go back to a question Lance asked, and I know you said you've never campaigned for the job, and if the clubs want you in whatever capacity you'll go, but will you be offering yourself to continue to be president of Guyana's Athletics?
Yes.
Okay.
Clearly, yes. Any capacity.
Okay, fair enough. There's another issue that I wanted to take up with you quickly, Mr. President, because one of the accusations was that you indulged in biased practices regarding the selection of athletes and coaches. Now, when I hear that, the first question that comes to mind is, does the association have a selection committee, or are you, as the president, the sole selector?
Not the sole selector. We have a record registration committee that we would have tasked many, many years ago to do the selection. However, that still has to come back to the council to make a final pronouncement on the team. What is the common practice in most cases is, as it relates to coaches, let's say Carifta, the coach with the most athletes on the team will be the coach that will be accompanying that team. But there's sometimes you won't cry from a few coaches, sometimes a lot of them, who say, well, like our turn will never come because we're not getting athletes on the team. So I don't think that there's a fairer system, but of late, the council have been encouraging coaches to go, to accompany the team. And my position has been that, look, I prefer the previous system. The other thing is too, was their technical events, you must select a technical coach. And that's basically it. As it relates to selection of teams, there's no bias. While I may look at the stats in the absence of the record and registration committee and sometimes recommend the team, you say, but how come you select this team? I say, okay, I'm removing my nominees. Could you select the team? And by and large, they come back with the same people. So the problem generally is, from my opinion, is that they want to do it. They don't want me to do it because they feel I'm looking too good doing it. So they want to do it. Hey guys, go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
The last Carifta team, the same one to the Bahamas, where we had the whole big double, I stepped out of the room and say, guys, whoever you all select, pair with me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to select the team manager. I'm not going to select anybody.
Okay.
Whoever you guys select. We have some qualifying standards that we set for athletes to go out in events. And once you achieve those standards within our calendar period starting from January, well, not January 18th, from January, I would say, February 2nd until our final trials in March 22nd. Once you make our qualifying standards, you can pack your bag, you're on the next flight to Trinidad.
Yeah. So just, I'll ask this question just for clarity. Have there been situations where you, as the president, would have or overturned the decision of your registration committee, is what you call it?
Records and registration.
Records and Registration Committee. Have there been instances where you, as the president, unilaterally overturned selections from them?
What I can tell you would have happened, and I don't know if you want to, see it in the same light, we would have selected, let's say, 4 athletes to go to the South American Youth Championship. And again, one of our council members came on board, said, look, he knows the way to get them to, I think it was Sao Paulo, quite easily, and leave that up to him. He's going to ensure that every athlete travel, all the rest of it. 4 days before the competition, you call this guy, he's not answering his phone. And so I had to go online, again, take my credit card out, and see how best I could get these athletes there. Lo and behold, I could have only gotten 1 seat. So instead of 4 athletes going, 1 athlete ended up going. If that's what you're speaking about, yes, I may be guilty of that. But to say I unilaterally take a team and determine, even though council would have said these 5 athletes are going, I select my own 5, never happened.
Yeah. One final one, Mr. President, because we're out of time. As an association, as the president of the association, Are you open to some level of mediation, external advice, external assistance to help you get your house in order? Because I must tell you, listening to you for the last, 35 minutes and having read all the articles, your house is a serious mess. Are you open to assistance?
I'm always open to assistance from even the youngest child who has a point of view in how to make things better for track and field in Guyana. Always. I walked out of that meeting where they claimed that I was suspended because I was privy to the chat, even after they were still debating what to write in the letter about my suspension. So it was total chaos. I know, as one of my colleagues would say, the fish rotten from the head. But at the end of the day, when the head operates the way he ought to operate to ensure that things are going right in the council, you would hear the flip side of that. Hey, this is not your show, you know. This is a council show. So council has to agree.
Yeah.
I don't know which road to take. So I'm taking the council has to agree now.
All right.
And wherever it falls, I'm going to ensure that track and field don't die in Guyana, and that the trajectory that we had coming up over the years, check my track record, we just received for 2022-2023 Association of the Year from the same National Sports Commission, who was the president. And I'm happy that they did it simply because regardless of how they feel about me, they cannot hide the work that our coaches and our athletes are putting in, and hence it's good to honor them in that way. Yeah. Because I know in other cases they may have punished the entire association because of who the president is.
Yeah. All right, Mr. President, I hear you. We're far out of time, long out of time. Thank you very much for joining us on the SportsMax Zone. We wish you and Guyana's athletics all the very best going forward. All the best with those meetings next week with their potential kit sponsor. I'm very sure they'll be favorable to you. Well, hopefully they will be favorable to you and you won't have to buy your own kit going forward as well. Thank you so much for joining us and all the best. And may I suggest to you that as president, you probably should not be walking out of so many meetings, but let's leave it there for now. We'll chat again, I'm sure.
Just when I walk over, just one meeting I walk out of. Thank you very much, guys. It's always a pleasure.
All right, take care, man. All right, yeah, we're up on a break. We've been up on a break. Let's get to it. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone.